The TSA will no longer be enforcing its mask mandate. However, don't ask Jenn Psaki about it, or, well, you might just be a stupid SOB. Ms. Monica, how you doing today?
Oh, doing great. I mean, if the very professional members of the White House squad would stop throwing around insults like they're in middle school.
Of course. They have to represent their voter base, if you will. And, well, the best way to do that is just to sling insults. But we'll get into that in just a moment.
And if you enjoy
yes.
News broadcasters who will not be slinging insults at you just
most of you.
because, well, most of you. If you're one of the stupid SOBs, then go ahead and like, subscribe. Make sure you turn on the alerts so you can see as we post new content.
Totally. We're going to hop right into this one from the Daily Mail. Rejoice, my friends. Flyers cheer and whip off masks as the TSA stops enforcing mandate after a court ruling. But flight attendants warn of, quote, more violence if there's confusion as airlines and airports get option to continue with rule. So the Flight Attendants Union has warned of more violence. It's a very odd thing to warn about violence in regards to masks. But
no kidding.
Kidding. It says, it was actually a federal judge that ruled to lift the CDC's mask mandate. She is amazing. We'll check her out a little bit, too. Today's court decision means the CDC's public transportation masking order is not in effect at this time, an administration official said. Oh, beautiful. Multiple people are flying Monday, posted videos and photos online, and I mean, the response has been generally very positive,
yes,
as one would imagine. Passengers are rejoicing the end of the pandemic-era mandate requiring face masks on planes, but a flight attendants unit has warned of further mid-air violence. It's not just violence, it's mid-air violence. And now, I'm just going to pause real quick because, you know, one thing that you and I have basically stopped doing is flying.
Yeah.
We have completely stopped. I mean, the people, they are, they are, oh boy, I don't want to say the obvious word for the kind of person who enforces rules insanely, but they were very passionate about masks. Maybe that's a better way to put it. So, I mean, we saw horrific clips of people like being dragged off planes or kicked off planes or not allowed to do this or that just because they didn't want to wear a mask or they were not wearing the correct mask. We saw a guy who just had a I don't even remember what it was. It was an American flag, and I think it might have said MAGA or something, maybe like right here. It wasn't something blatantly political, and they told him to take it off and put a new one on.
Well, and that's the thing, is it doesn't matter if it's political or not.
Mm-mm.
When you...
know they didn't say something about like a Black Lives Matter mask. You know they wouldn't say anything. It's just their own personal politics coming into play.
Well, because they want to use them as a fashion statement, so anybody who comes up against...
Oh, yeah. You gotta signal those virtues, baby.
Exactly. And that is what this has turned into. So we went from, masks being personal protection equipment. Like, these were supposed to be taken seriously. They were supposed to be, on your face, wash your hands, all of the good hygiene practices.
Yes, there were a lot of things that were pushed.
And in theory, if you use them, it was supposed to decline cases. Yeah. What it turned into is... this is my new fashion item.
Oh, yeah.
To express who I am and the most important things about me, whether
It was a trend.
It was very much a trend.
Just a trend.
A billboard.
Exactly.
It was a push your stance.
For your stance, your politics, everything.
Yes.
As long as, like I said, you were on the correct side of that argument. Otherwise, you were vilified for...
And think of how many companies came out and gave masks to their employees with the company logos on.
Capitalism is a beautiful thing, baby.
Yes. It turned into the new business card, the new handout pen, or the bumper sticker. Like, it became this big trendy thing.
Yeah.
And they stopped actually using them the way that masks were originally intended, even if misguided.
Yep.
And now we're getting to the point where people have clung to that idea. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, their mask is their identity.
I have seen people who are like, and whether or not they are real or not, because of course we're talking about online forums like Reddit or 4chan, but there are people who are adamantly against not wearing a mask.
Yes.
They have become so comfortable with it, and you know what? I'm just like, man. You're not ugly to everybody. It's okay. You may think that's the case, but you're okay. You can take it off.
Well, and you know what? If they want to wear a mask, if it is their fashion statement, if it is their their religious item that they cling to.
I identify as a ninja as well.
And let them.
Let them. Yeah, that's the thing.
We're not saying
Exactly.
that they can't wear their mask.
No, of course not. If you want to wear a mask, if you want to wear your hat, if you want to wear whatever you want, you go ahead and you wear it. However,
You
do not be upset if we make fun of you.
Well, and you do have to take it down so you can be identified to go
Yes.
on a flight.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's just the security measure
Yep.
for all of us.
Yep.
And I would hope that people would realize that that would be a security measure for them as well, since within our lifetime,
Yeah.
we've seen issues.
Oh, insane issues.
Yes.
Insane issues. Now, back to the article. On Monday, U.S. District Judge Catherine Kimball Mizell struck down the mask mandate, saying that the CDC had overstepped its remit and that its continued enforcement was illegal. The fact that we all, well, I guess not you and I, because we just said, we won't fly then, but so many people just begrudgingly went along with this, even though it was never voted upon. It was never actually anything beyond a CDC recommendation and like they use the word mandate, but really there's no constitutional authority to enforce this. And yet, look at this, for years we went on until a single judge stepped up and said, okay, yeah, this actually is unconstitutional and is illegal.
Yeah.
And then we all went, oh, okay, sweet. Someone told me I could take it off. I can take it off now. At least, like I said, you and I, of course, very different mentality. A lot of people across this country, very different mentality. But just that little fact that everybody went along with it, or at least the majority went along with it. They went along with one more inconvenience.
Well, because I think there's so many more people in our society who are willing to take on a slight inconvenience to make people feel comfortable. And that's where it becomes a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be dispassionate
Of course
towards those around you.
No.
You don't want to be just completely disregarding of their opinions. But there is a point where you have to go, okay, your opinion and your feelings don't change the reality for me.
Oh,
and
again,
I'm going to move forward with my life with my choices.
That is entirely the perspective of essentially your political side, whereas the other side is the inverse of that. Your facts and feelings your facts do not matter compared to my feelings. Whereas you're saying your feelings do not matter compared to my facts.
And that's why they respond the way
Yes.
they do when
Yes.
questioned.
Adamantly. Well,
Yes.
Oh yeah, we will get to that. Interestingly enough, though, individual airlines and airports can continue to enforce it if they see fit, although so far all major U.S. carriers have chosen to scrap the mask rule, with passengers filmed cheering with delight at the news. Quote, "We urge focus on clear communication so that flight attendants and other frontline workers are not subject to more violence created by uncertainty and confusion." The Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, which represents nearly 50,000 flight attendants across 17 airlines, issued a statement. "The last thing we need for workers on the front lines or passengers traveling today is confusion and chaos. Traveling can be stressful enough, and safety comes first with respect for blah, 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 blah." It's very interesting to me that that's their response. Uncertainty and confusion, when literally if these, like the last time I flew, I had to, of course, you had to wear a mask. However, there was this interesting little loophole where they technically couldn't say anything to you if you were eating something. So I had a little thing, and I mean, it was an hour-and-a-half flight, and there was I forget if it was pretzels or what, but there was something in my mouth the entire time. It was just like, no. And every time they walked by, they'd look at me, and I'd just look up and, no. And then they just kept walking. It's not about science, it's about theater. But the point I'm making is, response to this uncertainty and confusion, if they weren't constantly harping on people, I mean, they would just take their masks off. There's not going to be confusion or anything unless it's the kind of people who are, why isn't everyone wearing their mask?
But we never should have put it on them
to
make that a thing to begin with.
Yeah.
When it comes to something like personal safety, because I don't care how many times they tell me this, everyone masking up. If you feel like that is what you need, then go ahead and wear your mask.
Absolutely.
But for others to make that decision for other people and say that they have to, that's just not acceptable. That's an overstep.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned the slippery slope. Isn't it funny how we went from, when they said, I'm going to wear my mask and you have to wear yours or else mine won't work as effectively.
Yeah.
And then it went to the injection itself was everybody has to get it or they won't work effectively. it's like that same mentality of like, no, it's not going to work unless you do it too, which is societal pressure. And at that point, that's not even within the definition of what an injection of that nature, because you gotta be very careful, an injection of that nature used to be defined as. They literally changed the definition as
because
they
it's
went.
convenient for them.
Exactly. That's the worst thing about it. I mean, I'm just gonna show. I mean, the rest of this is you get the gist. But I really want to show. Like, look at this. They're cheering. They're throwing the masks. Oh, look at all those gloomy people. Oh boy. Yeah, it was a fantastic sight when we actually got to see when this was first announced and people were sending out videos of it. There was one I saw where the pilot came out and he started talking and everybody cheered. And I mean, oh yeah, I should have let that video play because they were like twirling their masks around and whatnot. But beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. I mean, to me, it's common sense. You know, it should be optional, just like all things in life. It's between you and your doctor. You shouldn't have to be told to do something or forced to do something. And then, you know, the worst thing is when I mentioned a doctor, and that is true. You should always go for medical advice. However, we're getting to this strange point, and it started, I'm not going to say it started with Kataji Jackson. However, it was highlighted when, of course, the senator asked her and said, can you define what a woman is? And she said, no, I cannot, for I am not a biologist. And now we get, from Mediaite, Psaki says she and Peter Doocey aren't doctors in response to question about mask mandate on planes. So now, if you ask someone a question, they can literally cop out and with the excuse of, "Well, I'm not insert blank professional here, so therefore I'm not allowed to," or
Which
"You're
is
not."
Amazing, because this is the same person who stood at that same pulpit and told us that we need to listen to her about vaccinations and about masks and about all of these medical things.
Yep.
But now she can't render a reason why.
Oh, of
like
course.
she can't give us a straight answer.
Nope. All she can do is mock, and well, we'll get to the second part of that in a second. I tell you what, just for sake of us, I'm going to go ahead and hit play on this clip. I am sorry for everybody that you have to hear Jenn Psaki. I don't blame you if you want to mute it for a bit. All right, let's hear what they have. Let's hear the exchange. Hold on, is that?
In an airplane cabin with no masks.
Oh, hold up.
I'm not a doctor.
I don't know if that caught it. I'm just going to start it over real quick.
Sit here in the White House briefing room with no masks, but people can't sit in an airplane cabin with no masks.
Well, Peter, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. That I'm aware of. If you're a doctor, I wasn't aware of that today until today. Okay, not a doctor. Just making sure. I don't know. And
Nor do you play one on TV.
nor does he play one on TV. There you go. Most days. But these determinations, remember the masking guidance is green, yellow, and red. We are currently in a green zone in Washington, D.C.
Okay, yeah, I can't do it anymore. It's just, you know, between the grating of her voice on my skull, it's really just the blatant condescension of like, oh yeah, are you a doctor, Peter? This is the White House Doctor Corps.
Yeah, well, and of course the CBS News senior White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe was the one that jumped in with the "Nor do you play one on TV."
How ridiculous is that?
Doocey wasn't claiming to be a doctor. He was simply asking,
Yep.
in two like scenarios of us sitting in a room versus us sitting in an airplane cabin, what's the difference in why you'll allow us to not wear masks
And we're
here
not
versus
looking
there?
for a medical definition. We're literally looking for the response of the people in charge.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, and honestly, had she said something along the lines of, there are multiple planes, we wanted to make sure that the standard was communicated effectively. That's why it's taken us this long to roll back the mandate.
Exactly.
That you have to
Look
go
at
through
that.
the legal channels. Versus you are sitting in the White House press room. We can make that decision day to day based on a risk analysis.
Yeah.
But instead, you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. And there's red, green, and yellow. No. Don't dive into all of the red, green, and yellow statistics and risk analysis. And all you have to say is, in our view of things, these are two different situations.
Well, interestingly enough, that's not all she had to say. Of
No.
course, let's hop to Huffington Post for our next one. Oh boy. Jensaki has, quote, perfect response when asked if Peter Doocey is really a stupid SOB. This is the White House press secretary. I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna take one moment just right now, and I'm just gonna say, you know, I miss you, Kayleigh McEnany. We did not know how great we had it when you came out with your giant binder of information and you went, oh, that's an interesting, look at this. I mean,
Yes.
Unfortunately, she wasn't a doctor, so now it's all just, oh, oy, oy, oy. But anywho, as she gears up for her next gig, that's one thing I was actually going to say. You know, she's leaving.
Well,
and
of
listen to
course.
Your Amazing Spin. You should probably inquire to see if they have an opening now. You can answer these questions better than she can. The outgoing White House press secretary, Jenn Psaki, is looking back on her publicly adversarial relationship with Fox News reporter Peter Doocey. At a live taping of the Pod Save America podcast Thursday, Psaki was quick to shift the blame for Doocey's actions to his employer when she was asked if the journalist really was a stupid SOB. And she said, quote, he works for a network that provides people with questions that, nothing personal to any individual, including Peter Doocey, but might make anyone sound like a stupid SOB, drawing laughter from the audience. Oh, so brave.
Because she's not the secretary, like the press secretary for the United States of America at this point.
No.
She's a stand-up comedian.
And it really brings back to, of course, I mean, she's a perfect representation of her boss. Remember when Doocey asked about, well, is inflation really going to be transitory? And Joe Biden was caught on hot mic going, what a stupid SOB.
Yeah.
I mean, this is obviously the mentality of these people. They are children in grade school. They are. You ask them a question, and it's, well, I'm just going to call you a name, and my fans will applaud me. But
Well,
you call
because-
them a name, and suddenly they're retreating to their safe space and crying about it.
Well,
Hey,
and the worst
PTSD.
part is that they want to sit there and, okay, we're not allowed to ask questions
Nope.
anymore.
Nope, never.
Like, that is essentially what they're saying.
Are you an inquisitor by profession?
Inquisitor. Are we working in Harry Potter world now?
Oh, it's funny. I was thinking Star Wars, but that's okay. That was nice. That was a nice little merger. I like it. Got a bridge there. Okay.
But it's one of those things where, okay, just answer the questions put in front of you. If there's a news network out there that believes that this question is worth asking, then there's somebody listening who wants to know the answer.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like Brian Stelter. Their entire reputation is just trashing not even the other side, but what they believe the stereotype of the other side to be. Like, they think that, you know, Fox News is just, I mean, in my opinion, it's controlled opposition, but they think it's just run by slack-jawed yokels who are just completely ignorant to the way things work and can't understand. Well, just buy an electric vehicle and you won't have to worry about gas. It's unfortunate. I'm not defending Fox News. I think, like I've said multiple times, aside from Tucker Carlson, they're essentially garbage. However, the fact that this is how it just shows you the mentality of this individual who represents their entire side, and that mentality really is just, well, I better be as condescending and snooty as possible because these plebes couldn't possibly understand.
Well, and it's funny because they are a group of, like, so far, everyone that turns out to be the more extreme liberal left that I don't agree with.
Yep.
They come forward and their personalities are these people who believe that they're having this truly deep conversation. And they believe that they're making this social change. Like, they really do.
Yeah. It's main character syndrome. We've talked about this.
Well, and even to the point where I was walking around with a group of gentlemen friends that we both know that after the Wonder Woman movie, or no, the Captain
oh yes,
Marvel
it was
came
Captain
out.
Marvel. I love this story. Go ahead.
And they had the nerve to, like, they sat there and said that they absolutely loved the movie and all the things that they liked about it. And I was like, really? That's shocking to me because I felt like there was zero character definition for this woman.
Yep.
And I felt like as much as she's supposed to be a powerhouse, she wasn't, because there was nothing special about her.
No. Her origin story was, Dad told me not to get in this car or I'll crash and hurt myself. And then I crashed and hurt myself, and he goes,
And he got mad at me.
and he got mad at me for not listening.
Yeah.
But then I defiantly stood up.
Well,
That's your
and
hero moment.
they had that moment where they all stopped and were like, "Oh, well, you're supposed to like her."
Yes.
And I was like,
You are supposed to, you female.
it was the moment where I
It was
like,
a movie for
wow.
females, and you're
Wow.
female. These words themselves are hate speech somewhere, I'm sure.
And they really do believe that they're doing women justice by buying into something that wasn't great. Because they think that if they buy into it and if they endorse it enough, they're advocating for women. When they have a woman right in front of them saying that was stupid and that was just not a good movie.
Well, I mean, look at they say Republicans are all racist, istophobic, whatever, and then Candace Owens walks up and goes, "Hey, wait, I disagree," and they go, "Ah, you don't count." And then Clarence Thomas goes, "Hey, wait a minute, why'd you say she was the first African American who sat on the Supreme Court when not only am I here, but there was someone before me? Bah, you don't count." Okay, I mean that is literally their mentality. They're trying to tell you how invalid your opinion is, and I'm just gonna quote Hank Hill here. They're not making the position of a woman better. They're just making entertainment worse.
Yes. And they're not making their side look any better by calling him a stupid SOB.
Yep.
Like, how you're supposed to be incredibly professional when you're at that stand. And to be so petty and to turn into one of the mainstream media stooges where you feel like you need to say something to get ratings.
Yep. Yeah.
You're supposed to be delivering a non-biased opinion.
Yeah.
Or, well, not really opinion. You're supposed to be delivering non-biased facts
Yeah, you're
about
supposed to be-
how the United States is
Exactly.
acting
The
and what our
information
policies
from
are.
the big guy.
But instead, you're throwing around insults because, and it's got to be frustrating for her because as much as she's told to spin things,
Right.
she's got to know that these policies aren't working.
I mean, you would really think, but at the same time, they're still operating on the mentality of there is no debate, there is no argument. It's all just about gotcha moments where they can then make a quick little TikTok or throw it out to their rabid fans who are like, yes, call him an SOB. But I'd say that pretty much has this one covered. You got anything else you'd like to add?
Nope. We will cover more in our next video.
Absolutely. Feel free to follow that amazing little icon. Oh, look at him. He's beautiful. Like, subscribe, all that good jazz. And we will see everybody here in our next vid.